Picture this. It's February 2026. You're standing in your garden, looking up at your roof, and that one big question pops into your head again. Is this finally the year I get solar panels? Well, the answer isn't floating up there in the clouds. It's right there in black and white on the quote. So today, we're going to slice through all that sales jargon to get to the real numbers. That way, you'll know for sure if an offer is a good deal or if you're just being taken for a ride. Okay, let's get right into it. To make this super clear, we're going to start with a baseline example. Think about your typical semi-detached house. Right now, the kind of gold standard system everyone's getting is a 4-kilowatt system. And that's really the sweet spot. We're talking an all-in price tag, everything included, of somewhere between 5,500 and 8,500 pounds. Now, you'd probably think the panels are the biggest chunk of that cost, right? Well, when you actually break it down, the reality is pretty surprising. Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at this breakdown. The panels themselves, they're almost a commodity at this point, only making up maybe 2 to 3 grand of the total cost. The things that really jump out are the labor, which can be up to 2,400 quid, and that big forgotten cost, the scaffolding. That alone can add another 800 pounds just to get the screw safely up on your roof. So, okay, that's our baseline. But, and this is a big but, where you live can change everything. And there are a couple of other big variables that can really swing that final number. It really, really does. I mean, you are looking at a very real London premium. If you're in the Southeast, expect to pay 15, maybe even 25% more, and that's mostly down to higher labor rates. But head up to Scotland or the Northeast, and you might actually get a discount of around 10%. It's a total postcode lottery. Right, so that's location sorted. But let's talk about the single biggest variable, the number one upsell you're going to see in 2026. And that is, of course, the battery. If you decide to add one of these to your system, you're looking at an extra 3.5 to, wow, 6,000 pounds on top of everything else. And look, the promise they sell you on is a really good one. A battery boosts what's called your self-consumption. Basically, you go from using maybe 30% of the power your panels generate to a whopping 80%. But, and this is where it gets a little bit weird, when you run the numbers, a battery actually extends your payback period. It really does. We're talking an extra 2 to 4 years. It just feels wrong, doesn't it? I mean, you're saving more money every single month, but that upfront cost is just so high that it actually takes you longer to get your money back than if you just stuck with the panels alone. It's a genuine paradox. That is just wild. Okay, so speaking of costs, let's talk about the other hidden ones. The little gotchas that can sneak their way onto your final bill after you've already shaken hands on a price. Yeah, first on the list is the state of your roof itself. This is a big one. If the installers get up there, pull off a few tiles, and find rotten timber underneath, well, that's an immediate, unexpected cost of 40 to 80 pounds per square meter. And that has to be fixed before they can even think about starting. And then you've got your electrics. Look, you just can't plug a brand new 2026 power plant into wiring from the 1980s. It doesn't work like that. So an upgrade to your consumer unit, your fuse box, is pretty much essential for older homes. And that could tack on another 400 to 800 pounds to your bill. And here's one that might feel like a bit of a sneaky add-on: bird protection. It's basically a wire mesh that costs about 150 to 400 quid. But honestly, don't think of it as a markup, think of it as insurance. Because pigeons absolutely love nesting under solar panels. It's like a warm, sheltered block of flats for them. If they get in there and start chewing on the wiring, believe me, that's a much, much more expensive fix down the line. All right, let's tie all of this together and talk about the bottom line. When it comes down to it, what are we really looking at for a break-even point? Right now, you're looking at a range of about 7 to 15 years. Now, that's a pretty wide range, and it really depends on where electricity prices go in the future and also on the export tariff, which is just the rate you get paid for selling your extra power back to the grid. And this is super important. You need to know the red flags on a quote. If an offer comes in 30 or 40% below that average we talked about, be very suspicious. That usually screams dodgy kit. And on the flip side, if anyone tries to charge you over 10 grand for a standard 4-kilowatt system without a battery, yeah, that's almost certainly a ripoff. And finally, there is one massive, time-sensitive deadline that you absolutely have to know about, and that's that. Right now, the rate on solar installations is 0%, but that ends in March 2027. If you wait too long, you are looking at an automatic, overnight 20% price hike on the whole thing. That's huge.
Which brings us to a really interesting final question, doesn't it? We know that adding a battery makes you way more energy independent, which feels great, but we also know it actually hurts your financial return on investment. So the question you have to ask yourself is this: are you trying to buy a financial asset, or are you just purchasing some very, very expensive peace of mind? Definitely something to think about.